here's 11 things I wish I knew before playing Boltgun. I thought it'd be fun to quickly give you a few insights from my playthrough experience in regards to tips and tricks I learned along the way. From the very moment that I first laid eyes on Boltgun, I knew I had to play it. The game has a very visceral, Doom-inspired boomer shooter gameplay loop set in the Warhammer 40K universe. Boltgun immediately caught my eye, and as a fan of the Doom series, I could clearly see that Boltgun pays homage to the genre, while also flexing its own muscle in the field. And the result is that it had me hooked from start to finish.
You are an abomination to be expunged!
Number 1, the default controller scheme is kinda meh. So I can't remember how long I endured the default control setting, but I think it was around the first chapter's conclusion that I decided to explore my options with the controller scheme settings. As soon as I switched the controller scheme from the default to the second layout, I personally found that the flow of traversal became way more fluid. The second layout scheme switches the charge movement and the sprint to enable the player to hold down the left trigger for sprint and click the left stick for charge. Charge is an interesting mechanic that I found to be mostly useless most of the time, while sprinting is essentially non-negotiable in keeping up with the frenetic pace of Boltgun's array of monstrous lasers, death rays, and poisonous frog tongues, all invading your personal space while you try to complete your mission for the Emperor. This quality of life adjustment was a massive improvement for my own gameplay experience. Pushing forward with the analog stick while keeping my left thumb firmly pressed down to continue sprinting was becoming way too uncomfortable to sustain beyond chapter 1. So do yourself a favor and consider changing the controller scheme when you start up Boltgun. Remember, run for your life and never stay in one position for too long.
The Emperor's hand will touch you, and you
Number 2, Contempt, parentheses, which is armor, is essential. If you've played any boomer shooters like Doom 64 or even the newer Doom remakes, then you might be familiar with the concept of armor and health as it relates to this genre. The armor in Boltgun is titled Contempt. Just like in Doom or Quake, the armor is essential, but sometimes it's only available in very short supply. For my first run through, I played the game on medium difficulty, and towards the end of chapter 1, I found myself desperate for any kind of armor protection available amidst the violent purge. A tense purging session can run down to the wire of claustrophobic battle where having 100 armor points could allow the player character to withstand a powerful blow from a boss. There's nothing worse than scouring the map and replenishing your health gauge only to get hit once by a boss and die immediately. The armor helps you soak up some damage while sprinting through the map on the hunt for crucial resources or any kind of relic or special ammo that may turn the tide of the fray. Remember, take your time and explore every nook and cranny, and pay attention anytime Contempt is available. And don't forget to look up and down. Often I'd find that a tide-turning discovery of a Contempt cache could mean the difference of starting over or finishing off that excruciating boss. Number 3, there's no map, but I will say that the game does a pretty good job of using context clues and environmental storytelling to get you from point A to B. Like any good boomer shooter, there is an element of Metroidvania involved in traversing the levels, meaning you should always expect to loop around, find shortcuts, open new doorways, and discover keys. Pay attention to any markings that may indicate platforming set pieces or hidden passageways. Number 4, your undead companion. Honestly, with my focus being so heavily drawn towards the battlefield, I found it difficult to read the tips given by your companion. The skeletorch, as I call it, is very useful sometimes in keeping things somewhat organized. However, I did notice quite a few times when the skeletorch would recognize that I was lost, but never proceed to provide a solution. So I can't say it will make all the difference in you finding your way through a difficult to navigate labyrinth, but give it a shot and try and pay attention when possible to the clues and hints given by your hovering friend. Number 5, weapon efficiency is key. So there's a really helpful little help guide in the menu, and I wish there was more stuff like that, maybe like a bestiary or like a codex. But I appreciate the info that they did give us. These types of games usually have kind of a lot of mystery, and I think they're games that are like perfect for strategy guides, but I thought I'd include the way that they describe strength versus toughness. So this mechanic is described by the developers as the damage your weapons deal change based on the target's toughness. Used over strength weapons to deal more damage. This effect is magnified on higher difficulties. So the copy is a little weird, but I'll do my best to explain. So the highest level is strength is double the toughness, maximum damage. So if you see the arrows pointing up, the green arrows, that usually means that's a good shot. In this case, you're getting double damage. The next level below that is strength is greater than toughness, so you're gonna get increased damage. So if you see an enemy and you see still this green arrow, you're getting increased damage. You're not getting maximum damage like the highest tier, but now you're getting increased damage. The one below that is just normal damage. So that is that your strength of the weapon equals the enemy's toughness. The one below that is that your strength is less than the toughness, so you're gonna get reduced damage. And the final lowest level of this is that strength is half the toughness, so minimal damage. So it's a little confusing, and honestly, essentially if I see green, that's good. So I would chase enemies down and just flip through my weapons until I saw that I was gonna get a really good strength versus toughness relationship. So maximum damage is what you want to go for. So for example, there are a few bosses where really you're better saving the most powerful weapons and reserving them until you have a clear shot of the boss. This is because the common bolt gun or the shotgun might only deliver that minimal damage, when the melt-gun or the gravity gun might give you maximum damage or even increased damage. It's a pretty cool mechanic, and it keeps the gameplay super refreshing. So by the end, I kind of enjoyed sprinting around an arena searching for the right ammo or for the right gun to then perch up at a good distance and let the strength of my gun defeat the toughness of the enemy. All right, number 6. So relics and special ammo are incredibly powerful against bosses and tough enemies. You will find all these kind of emblems, and when you're playing, you don't have time to like figure out what they do. So, but I'll break them down for you here. So Emperor's Visage. Visions of the Emperor bolster your contempt, receive a huge contempt boost. And if you remember the previous rule, contempt is super important in this game. You need that armor to protect you against enemies. Next is Aura of Doom. Increases your damage and reduces incoming damage. So that is one of those ones I would save for like the most powerful enemy when you're locked into purge mode, where you can't escape until you defeat all the enemies. Save that one for a boss. So if you see that relic, kind of wait and then utilize it at the right time. Assault Doctrine powers up your chainsword, cut them to pieces. This one, honestly, like I don't think I got much out of it. The chainsword is cool, but it doesn't seem like the best option if you're being bombarded by so many enemies with projectiles. Like, I definitely recommend keeping your distance and avoiding melee as much as possible. Munitions Boon, increase your maximum ammo. Machine Spirit powers up your weapons. Machine Spirits can be unpredictable. Every weapon is affected differently. Infinite ammo, never run out of ammo for a limited time. Vortex Grenade creates a warp vortex that destroys everything in its path. Now for the special ammo, you have Dragon Fire rounds, which are fiery death in a wider area of effect. Kraken rounds, which are rounds that fire much faster than normal. And Vengeance rounds can penetrate walls and targets. So these are, as soon as you get this ammo upgrade, you could feel the power. It's definitely a little bit more self-explanatory than the relics. But again, like, save these types of boosts to your overall power for the toughest enemies. You definitely don't want to waste these boosts. Number 7, keep your distance. There are a few enemies that require really powerful weapons. I advise that you try to avoid getting swarmed or crowded. Once I realized that most of the weapons in Boltgun have significant range, the game really started to flow naturally from level to level. If you're an experienced arena shooter player, then you'll already know this, but if Boltgun is your first time with the Doom-like, then definitely experiment with the map. If you're struggling to take down a larger enemy, grab your most powerful weapon, get some cover, and strike from a distance. Oh, and dodge everything. Number 8, melee is kind of useless. So from my experience, melee was mostly forgettable. It's a nice option to have if ammo is really sparse, but often I found the price of close range combat is too costly. I'd rather scour every inch of the map for more ammo than charge headfirst into a horde of enemies with the chainsword. Number 9, grenades are essential. There are a few different grenade types, and if we're being honest, this game can be so fast paced that I'd often just lob a grenade at powerful enemies and pray that I wouldn't get hit with my own splash damage. On the medium difficulty level, there are plenty of grenades to go around, so don't hoard unless you're confident that an exceptionally large foe is afoot. If you have eyes on a really nasty monster, then chuck as many grenades as you can at it and try and break through the enemy's toughness. Then pick an appropriate weapon to perform maximum damage and use the other rules. Keep your distance, utilize power-ups, and don't get hit. Number 10, it's worth to end a mission as soon as possible. Some enemies continually respawn. I'm not sure if this is a complaint or an observation, but I found the concept of enemy count per level to be a little perplexing. My theory is that the purge and all the foes leading to the final purge on a map are what really counts. After a purge, there may be a few leftover grunts that were spawned by a boss. They might not actually count. I'd love to get clear on that point, but honestly, if you're okay taking the risk and plan on revisiting the levels to get a full completion mark, then I'd say the game is more fun when you're moving through the levels at a slightly brisker pace. I'm pretty sure, like Doom, your ammo, health, and weapon loadout carries through to the next level, at least in some cases. So there's an argument to be made to conserve your ammo and your weapons towards the end of a mission. There's always a stronger, more formidable foe around the corner. 11, the gravity weapon is a lifesaver. Just like in Doom 64 and Doom 2016, I found the discovery of weapons in Boltgun to be exceptionally gratifying. The weapon variety really delivers on Boltgun, and I especially love the usefulness of the gravity weapon. The weapon does more damage against larger foes, so save it and only use it in a pinch, but boy is it fun to unload on massive enemies. And honestly, there are, if I recall correctly, they're called champions. It's like aspiring champion and legendary champion. Use it on those guys because those guys will rush you, and sometimes it just takes too long to use a shotgun or a bolt gun or a melt-a-gun or anything else. So I would kind of use that gravity weapon on them, and it definitely made the gameplay experience more smoother to not have to deal with those guys. Those are 11 things I wish I knew before playing Boltgun. I hope these tips help. Please let me know what you think of the game. If you have any tips of your own, throw them in a comment below. This has been the Yetti Den. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.